Am I the a-hole for telling my son that I would not stop inviting his ex to family functions? My son, 44 male, divorced his wife, 43 female, after having an affair with a much younger woman, I think 23 female. He and his ex have 2 kids, 12, 6, and his ex has almost full custody of them. He gets them 1 weekend per month. He just got engaged to the woman he had an affair with and told me I'm not allowed to invite his ex to family functions anymore because his fiancée is uncomfortable being around her. I told him no and now he's angry with me. My reasoning is, she has custody of their children the vast majority of the time and I want to be able to see my grandchildren frequently and not only once a month. She has basically been my daughter for 20 years and it's not like their divorce is going to change the way I feel about her. And she is actually closer to most of the family than he is since she was always the one who kept us up to date about the kids, scheduled family outings with us, and even spent more time with us than he did. Also, her family lives in another country and we have been her family for decades. I'm not going to take that away from her because my son decided to leave her. However, I recognize that I'm still really angry and hurt about my son's actions towards his ex-wife and kids, so maybe I'm acting out of anger. Am I the a-hole for refusing to exclude his ex from our family functions? Not the a-hole. His fiancée should be uncomfortable. She deserves it. I think you can maintain a good relationship with the ex and even see them socially, with or without your grandchildren. You can invite them all over for dinner, go on vacations together. However, for family gatherings, you should be hosting your son and his current partner, with your grandchildren. We don't always approve of our children's partners or behaviors, but the new GF is his partner now. Respect your own son's wishes. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take down a picture of my brother in my house after his girlfriend asked me to? I, female 27, have individual pictures of my immediate family members in my house, including pictures of my brother, male 25, our dad, and our mom. I invited my brother and his girlfriend to my house for dinner a couple nights ago, and I showed my brother's girlfriend around because she's never been inside my house before. We came across the picture I have of my little brother. His girlfriend asked me why I had a picture of him, and I said it's because he's my baby brother, why wouldn't I have a picture of him? She then told me I had no right to have that picture in my house. My brother heard us arguing, and came over. We explained the situation and my brother said he was perfectly okay with me having a picture of him inside my house. His girlfriend started throwing a fit on how it was so freaking weird, and she ended up leaving my house and causing my brother to run after her. Not the a-hole, add another picture of your brother every time she comes over. What the actual F? This girl sounds completely crazy and honestly stalkerish. Am I the a-hole for packing my dad's lunch but not my brother-in-law and refusing when demanding to? My 17 female parents have been remodeling the house. My dad tore a big chunk in the back and he, my brother, 19 male, and my sister's husband, 27 male, have been cleaning and picking the rubbish that was left. It's important to say that I do not like my brother-in-law at all. He's quite misogynistic, disrespectful and has no boundaries. I know how badly this speaks of my family, but my brother and father are nothing like that and they too believe that he's awfully wrong. Here is so much we can do when my sister claims she's happy with this. I try to interact as less as I can with him, and I feel uncomfortable in his presence because until a few years ago he used to make fun of me for anything I did. He's also used to have my sister or my mom do things for him like cooking, serving him his own plate, laundry, childcaring, anything. That being said, my father and my brother-in-law usually leaves at the same hour to work. My dad works in construction and brother-in-law at a company. I've been doing my dad's lunch for 2 years now since I got a liking to cooking. I cook dinner for all of us and I only pack some for him. For example, during this instance, I made enchiladas so I packed him a few, with a side of lettuce, sour cream and green salsa in small containers, a bag of chips and a few chunks of sliced fruit, apple and pear. I also pack him a water and Coke. When they came to the kitchen, with my mom, I told my dad that his lunch was already in his car so he could eat something and leave without worrying, and my brother-in-law said, "What about me?" I just shrugged my shoulders and said that I left him a container in the island and he was more than welcome to pack his own stuff, that there were waters and Cokes in the fridge. He gave me a dirty look and asked why I didn't do it for him and I said, "You're not my dad." So my mom got in the middle and told me to start pack my brother-in-law's lunch and he smirked when she said that, but I just sat with my plate and said no, that he could pack his own lunch or buy something at his job. My mom said that I was embarrassing her, but my dad cut all for this when he told my brother-in-law to stop fighting and pack his own stuff because I already cooked for all of us. He ended up saying he would eat something at work and left early. My mom tried to berate me, but my dad cut her out and said that my brother-in-law is already an adult. She said, "But she packs your lunch," and my dad said, "Yeah, but I don't demand it." When he left, my mom called me an a-hole and that she raised me better. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law is not your responsibility and he's in a hole. Nothing requires you to serve him. Your mom can pack his lunch as she wants that so badly. Not the a-hole, and way to go dad for having your back. Next time mom says she raised you better, reply with, "No, Dad raised me better. He taught me self-respect. Am I the a-hole for calling my fiancé a jerk? My 28 female, fiancé, 38 male, proposed to me last week. We've been dating for 2 years. He has a 15-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. Her mom passed again 5 years ago and I have a 6-year-old son. When my fiancé and I started to date, I noticed that his daughter had the master bedroom. I found it weird because I've never seen a child taking over the master bedroom before, but he brushed it off saying that the house was hers so it was normal she slept there, with no further explanation. I thought he meant as an inheritance from when he passed away, which still was weird because he was alive, but either way, I didn't say anything because we were only beginning and I knew it wasn't my business. Now that we're engaged, I said that I wanted to move here to live together for a while before we decided the wedding date. He said that we could do it or we could get our own house now because we will have to do it regardless. I asked what was wrong with this one and he said nothing, but that it was her daughter's. To be honest, now I did get a little mad. I said it wasn't fair he called it his daughter's when we were about to get married and he was supposed to adopt my son. So now the house should be theirs and not only hers. I also said I wanted his daughter out of the master because it was ours. He got a little nervous and said that the house really belonged to his late wife and when she passed, the house became his daughter's. He has enough money for maybe 60% of a house, but that we will have to pay off the rest together. I was shocked and said that he could ask her daughter for the house because she's only 15 and he is her dad, but he said no, that it was her daughter's. I got angry and called him a jerk because he should have told me the truth before, and he said that it's not like we will be homeless or anything. We still have 3 years and maybe 4 after that because his daughter will leave for college. He said he has always known he has to move out and that's why he saved. I asked what else belonged to his daughter that I didn't know of and he said that his car, a 2020 Kia, the car that I always use, will be hers when she leaves for college. I called him a jerk again and left with my son to my parents' house. When I told my family, my brother laughed because I talked and acted like a gold digger and called me an a-hole. I felt betrayed and lied. Am I really the a-hole? I think I'm justified. You're the a-hole. He told you the house belonged to his daughter. That you chose to not ask what he meant and assumed he really owned it is your own fault. You deceived yourself. It is her inheritance from her dead mother, and you want a share of it. The girl has already lost her mother, but that's not enough. Now you're demanding a share of her inheritance go to people the mother never even met. How can you think that's reasonable? Everyone sucks here. You for making ridiculous demands about his daughter's house and wanting to force her out of her own room for your occupancy, and him for not being honest and being weird about everything. Maybe he was afraid to say anything because you are so aggressive and entitled, though. Am I the a-hole for spraying water in my wife's face to wake her up? My wife sleeps like a rock every night. She gets in this very deep sleep and nothing can disturb it. When our twins were babies, she never heard them cry during the night. It didn't bother me until recently. She decided that she was going to wake up early every day as a part of a self-care routine. She sets up 1,000 alarms every 10 minutes from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. She doesn't hear any of them. I, however, am awake since the first alarm at 5 a.m. I wake her up and I can't fall back asleep, so I toss and turn until I have to get up for work. She doesn't wake up immediately after I talk to her. I have to shake her and talk to her constantly until she's up, and I don't mind doing that at 7 a.m., but 5 a.m. is simply cruel. This has been going on for 2 weeks and I am exhausted. Yesterday, I decided I had enough of this bullshit, and when her first alarm went off, I took my water bottle and sprayed water on her face. She was awake instantly, turned off her torture device phone, and I could go back to sleep. She didn't say anything, so I did it again this morning. She's apparently furious because it's extremely rude to splash her with water, not once but twice. I think it's also extremely rude to keep me sleep deprived, but she disagrees. Not the a-hole. The brief discomfort she feels from a little splash of water does not hold a candle to that of being woken up every day at 5 a.m. and having to sit through an hour of non-stop blaring alarms. Jesus, I would die. Everyone sucks here, even though I understand your frustration. Spraying her with water is definitely rude. Especially when you're both adults and should have the maturity to communicate the issue, which is the fact that her self-care routine of waking up early is clearly not working, and if anything is harming you, which is the a-hole move on her end. Talk it out. Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend her husband made a pass at me? I'm a 31-year-old woman and have been best friends with my friend who is 34 since I was 15. She has been married to her husband for 5 years. I've never been his biggest fan. Something about him always seemed off to me, but I never once brought it up or told her my feelings on the matter, as I had no reason to suspect he wasn't above board. Sometimes you just don't like people, it doesn't make them a bad person, and I figured it was just that. Due to our connection through her, we do sometimes talk on social media. Not often, but he is on my friend list. 3 nights ago he made a pass at me, sending some rather flirty messages and commenting about a picture I'd put up a few hours earlier of myself at the beach with a friend. I was naturally disgusted with this and asked him what the frick he was doing, and told him I was his wife's best friend, then asked if he was drunk. He quickly tried to backtrack and cover his arse, but it was very clear he'd been making a pass from what he'd written. He then begged me not to tell her, at which point I ignored him. I then screenshot all the messages, saving them, and the next day first thing in the morning I called up my friend and asked her to come see me, where I laid it all out for her. I had wanted to tell her in person, as it'd be easier to soften the blow rather than immediately sending all screenshots to her with no easing into it. I expected her to be upset, but I was surprised when she got upset with me. She told me I must have led him on in some way to make him think that kind of message was okay, that he'd never do something like this without being tempted first. I told her I'd never do that to anyone, last of all my best friend, and pointed out how clearly disgusted I was by what he'd written. I then told her I was worried because if he'd do this to her best friend, what was he doing with women who didn't know her? She left angry with me and hasn't spoken to me since we met up that day. I've sent her a few messages since then but haven't gotten a reply. I hope it's just misplaced anger and she needs time to come to terms with this. I don't know what else I was supposed to do. Surely sitting on this and not telling her would have been worse? Not the a-hole. You did the right thing. She is just in denial at the moment. No a-holes here. You did the right thing. She is clearly struggling, and hopefully she can eventually come to terms with the fact that her husband is clearly a cheater. You shouldn't feel bad about being honest with your friend.